When we hear about the climate change consequences from the media, we are mostly reminded of two main factors to be affected: rising temperatures and rising ocean levels. What about oxygen, water, and food? How are they going to be affected by the growing process of climate change? Hi there, my name is Marigona and welcome to my channel. Today I would like to talk about the way climate change might impact our breathing, drinking, and eating habits. Starting by oxygen. Oxygen is the most critical resource for human survival. We require its constant supply with a frequency of breathing of 12 to 20 inhalations a minute, and the daily adult intake averages almost 1 kilo of oxygen. For the global population, this translates to an annual intake of about 2.7 billion tons of oxygen per year, which is an insignificant fraction of the element's presence in the atmosphere, around 0.00023%. And the exhaled CO2 is readily used by the photosynthesizing plants. Burning fossil fuels removes around 27 billion tons of oxygen per year from the atmosphere, which sounds like a lot, but one maybe extreme and completely theoretical calculation shows that even we should burn all of the world's known reserves of fossil fuels, atmospheric oxygen concentration would be reduced by just 0.25%. Unfortunately, for hundreds of millions of people, breathing is made difficult for many reasons, ranging from pollen allergens to outdoor and indoor pollution, but there is no risk of impaired breathing caused by any decline of atmospheric oxygen consumed by forest fires or by burning fossil fuels. Massive forest fires are destructive and harmful in many ways, but they are not going to suffocate us because of lack of oxygen. However, water supply is a perfect example of a universally mismanaged resource, and it should be very high in our list of environmental worries. Not because there is any absolute shortage of this critical resource, but because it is unevenly distributed and because we have not managed it well. We waste water enormously, and so far we have been so slow to change our habits and trends. Water supply per capita will be decreasing worldwide. As a result, our best option for dealing with future water supply is to manage demand. There are, of course, physical limits to reductions too. Drinking water between 1.5 and 3 liters a day is a matter of basic survival for humans. No rehydration for a day is a trying experience. For 2 days it becomes risky, and for 3 days it is usually fatal. Translating it to a per capita average of about 750 liters of water a year. But there are more voluminous water needs for personal hygiene, cooking, or laundry. A year's supply for one person is the same as driving in an average passenger car for around 45 kilometers. That includes drinking, cooking, and cleaning. Unlike the bottled alternative, which has around 1,000 times more impact, cold tap water is not a major carbon concern. Interestingly, a cup of tap water has around 0.06 of CO2 emissions, but if our cup of tap water is poured down the drain, its footprint rises almost 4 times, because it is more carbon intensive to treat wastewater than to supply the water in the first place. The shortage of drinking water can be eased by desalination, the removal of dissolved salts from seawater. There are around 18,000 desalination plants from around the world, but the cost of the desalinated water are well above those of fresh water supplied from the reservoirs or from the recycling. On the other hand, most of the world's food production will continue to depend on rainfalls. At the same time, global food production is a significant source of greenhouse gases that contributes to global warming. Some of the specifics of the food you buy will depend on where you live in the world, but principles are largely transferable. The food we buy adds up to around 3 tons of CO2 per year per person. If you factor in the effect of deforestation, the footprint of our food goes up again. If you want to trash the planet, buying the wrong food or wasting what you buy is far more expensive way of going about it than leaving the lights on or turning up the thermostat. No other human activity has transformed the Earth's ecosystem to a greater extent than the production of food. It is already adding up to about a third of planet's non-glaciated land. The combined area devoted to food production is now more than twice as large as it was a century ago. This amount of land used in food production could be reduced with the better farming practices, reducing our food waste, and the general adoption of moderate meat consumption. A recent study asked if it's possible to feed the future population of about 10 billion people expected shortly after 2050 and concluded that the global food system could supply balanced daily diets around 2,400 kilocalories per capita to no more than 3.4 billion people, but that 10.2 billion people could be fed and supported only with the reorganization of cropland, better water and nutrition management, food waste reduction and dietary modifications. Crops could be grown in ways that increase organic matter in soils and hence their carbon storage, and methane emissions from livestock could be lowered by eating less beef. Sometimes business people try the argument that their hands are tied until governments act or till customers care more. Governments say that they can't move ahead of popular opinion. Chinese people say that the developed world started it and it is more carbon hungry, so they should start the cuts. Whereas in the UK, people say that we are just a pinhole in comparison with the US emissions and the Chinese middle classes. Our global average is over 7 tons of carbon emissions each. The world has around 50 billion tons of CO2 emissions per year and rising. There's more than enough fossil fuel left in the ground to push us into climate meltdown if we are to burn it all. But the change has to start. Who can start that off? Anyone can. Anyone who finds a way of enjoying life more for less carbon is setting a standard for others. Choosing a lower carbon footprint helps the supermarkets to emphasize their products. Any supermarket that promotes its lower carbon range is helping its customers to enjoy low carbon food. All of this helps the political parties to move into a low carbon position. If you can find a way of being happier but with smaller footprint, you are a leader. This is the least we can do. Don't forget to subscribe and thank you for watching.